victims of Dana White.
Francis wants to take zero risks, where he's got some Conor McGregor-Mayweather fight.
Demetrius Johnson put out a big statement a couple days ago.
Yep.
What was your response or reaction when you heard about that?
He said most of what he said was not true. He wasn't very confident in his abilities to sell pay-per-views.
At the time, they were in talks about getting rid of the flyweight division.
Stepping into the octagon is not for the faint-hearted. It's an exclusive club where only the bravest dare enter its 8-sided domain. In the grand spectacle of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, fighters are the main attraction, the stars of the show, providing heart-stopping entertainment for the masses. But let's not kid ourselves. Behind the scenes, Dana White is the puppet master, the wizard behind the curtain, holding the fate of these warriors in his hands. The UFC is his chessboard, and he plays it with the finesse of a cat who's just spotted a laser pointer. As the adage sometimes goes, the house always wins, and Dana White is the house in this arena. With a mere snap of his fingers or a flick of his tongue, he can rewrite history, molding it like clay to craft his ultimate narrative. This might mean sidelining the legends of MMA, those titans of the octagon whose stories are woven into the very fabric of the sport. Well, make no mistake, if you find yourself on Dana's naughty list, the repercussions are swift and often public, from scorching media callouts to diminishing the luster of championship reigns, and in some rare, almost mythological cases, banishment from the UFC kingdom. These are the UFC fighters Dana White has chosen to erase, a stark reminder that sometimes the toughest battles are fought outside the cage in this game. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. 1. Mighty Mouse. Even though he is not particularly tall, Mighty Mouse, whose true name is Demetrius Johnson, is widely regarded as a towering figure in the world of mixed martial arts. Johnson established himself as the uncontested pound-for-pound king over a decade, during which time he dominated the 125-pound division. He was able to successfully defend his championship an astounding 11 times within that amount of time. His ability to smoothly incorporate a variety of combat methods made him an unrivaled power within the octagon. He was praised for his incredible athleticism and skills, which were unmatched by anyone else. It is difficult to imagine that a single individual could become the epitome of fighting mastery, becoming the most skilled fighter in the history of the world. The ability to conceive a fighter who is so proficient that they are compared to a Muay Thai master and whose moves are as fluid as pouring water is difficult to fathom. However, despite his remarkable accomplishments and apparent talents, Demetrius Johnson had a difficult time gaining the degree of attention and support that one might anticipate from not only fans but also the hierarchy of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Why was it that a fighter of Johnson's talent, who broke the traditional model of putting spectacle ahead of competence, was unable to receive the universal praise that he deserved? The fact that spectators don't seem to appreciate the flyweight division, which may have drawn inspiration from the era when heavyweights dominated, may be part of the reason for the overlook. Furthermore, the lukewarm reception from certain corners appears to have been influenced by Johnson's courteous manner toward opponents, which starkly contrasts with the brashness displayed by individuals such as Conor McGregor. Johnson, however, did not let these problems prevent him from becoming a vocal advocate for greater compensation for fighters. He even dared to confront UFC President Dana White publicly about contractual conflicts and pay-per-view points, which was a bold move for a champion who was currently in command of the organization. Suddenly, this disagreement with White escalated to the point that threats were made to eliminate the flyweight category. This exemplifies the enormous tension that exists between the athlete and the highest-ranking officials in the business. Johnson's stint with the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, came to an end with an unprecedented deal with one championship in exchange for Ben Askren. This particular trade marked a big transition in Johnson's career. What was the reason that a boxer of Johnson's level had to take such a radical turn to seek the respect and money that he deserved instead? To what extent did this conflict shed light on the more widespread challenges that fighters face inside the industry? The legacy of Demetrius "Mighty Mouse" Johnson is not only comprised of his remarkable triumphs within the octagon, but also of his bravery in fighting for his rights outside of it, thus paving the way for subsequent generations of fighters. 2. Tyrone Woodley. Tyrone Woodley is one of the most influential fighters in the welterweight division, but he had a tense relationship with Ultimate Fighting Championship President Dana White on the way to the top. When one first considers the possibility, it is difficult to comprehend how Woodley, a former welterweight champion who is renowned for his explosive knockout power, could conflict with White. Even though Woodley exemplified the ideal combination of athleticism and skill, he was unable to win the adoration of the public in the same manner that some of his contemporaries did. Some people wrongly labeled Woodley's fighting style as boring, even though his record featured several finishes. This was even though Woodley was the defending champion at the time. Following Woodley's rematch with Stephen "Wonderboy" Thompson, the dispute that had been going on between Woodley and White became the subject of widespread public attention. As a result of the fact that the first battle was hailed as a classic, there are great expectations for the second fight. However, during a press conference held after the fight, White voiced his dissatisfaction with the subsequent fight, which sparked a verbal back and forth that further soured their relationship from the beginning. As someone who is not one to shy away from conflict, Woodley responded hilariously in an interview by referring to White as a drama queen. After that, the tension continued to rise. After Woodley's victory over Damian Maia, a jiu-jitsu expert, White did not hold back his criticism. He suggested that Woodley's performance was so unpleasant that spectators would probably not be interested in watching him fight again under any circumstances. When taking into consideration the sacrifices and risks that fighters endure each time they step into the octagon, many people believe that this public denunciation of a champion who is now in the ring is an excessive step. They do not consider fighting to be merely a sport, rather it is their means of life. It is interesting to note that White's unhappiness appeared to reach its zenith when Woodley derailed the hype train of Darren Till, a fighter who many people saw as having the potential to become a superstar in the making, similar to Conor McGregor. Even though Woodley was dominant and possessed a mastery of strategy, it appeared that this victory did not boost his reputation with the leadership of the UFC. It is impossible to deny the admirable nature of Woodley's reign as champion, which has been defined by 4 title defenses in one of the most difficult divisions in the sport. However, after suffering a defeat at the hands of Kamaru Usman and subsequent defeats, Woodley's position in the sport diminished, which ultimately led to his becoming relatively unknown. Because of this result, 2 important questions are raised. What are the reasons behind the dramatic shift in the narrative surrounding a fighter's legacy that occurs when their relationship with the leadership of the promotion is investigated? And what are some ways that fighters may make sure that their accomplishments are remembered and respected regardless of how popular they are or how entertaining their fights are? 3. Francis Ngannou. While Francis Ngannou is known for his quiet demeanor outside of the ring, he is also known for his destructive power inside of it. He was formerly the winner of the heavyweight championship. The very mention of his name conjures up pictures of knockouts that are so devastating that they could have been taken straight from a comic book. His striking skill is so formidable that it invokes such imagery. When you get into the ring with Ngannou, you are confronted with a punch that has the power of 96 horsepower, which is comparable to being hit by a Ford Escort that is traveling at a high rate of speed. As a result of his amazing power, Ngannou was able to establish a new world record for the most forceful punch. This accomplishment is a tribute to his moniker, the Predator. The story of how Ngannou rose to the top of the mixed martial arts world exemplifies both tenacity and uncompromising strength. Even though he entered mixed martial arts at a later stage in his life, his amazing physical talents rapidly established him as a formidable opponent, destroying his opponents on his way to a title chance. Nevertheless, despite the excitement that surrounded his ascent, Ngannou encountered obstacles that called into doubt his psychological fortitude. This was especially true during his bout with Stipe Miocic, in which he was out-wrestled and ultimately beaten. Ngannou's subsequent fight against Derek Lewis, which was highly anticipated because of the knockout potential of both of them, ended up being lambasted for its lack of action, which led to Dana White openly rebuking Ngannou's performance. When considering the fighter's lowly beginnings, White's comments, which specifically called Ngannou's ego into question, appeared to be harsh. The story of Ngannou's life, which begins with him laboring in the sand mines of Cameroon and ends with him battling for a better life, exemplifies a journey that is characterized by humility and persistence. The story of his ultimate ascent back to the top, which culminated in his capturing the heavyweight belt, is a testament to his battling spirit and showcases his ability to redeem himself. It was at this point that Ngannou's relationship with the UFC would undergo a significant change. After Dana White successfully defended his title against Cyril Gane, the customary routine of Dana White placing the belt around the winner's waist was noticeably omitted, which indicated a significant schism between the two of them. As a result of the contractual impasse that ensued, Ngannou decided to leave the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC. White was quick to criticize this decision, even though Ngannou had made efforts to bring attention to concerns such as the lack of health insurance and fighter compensation. What is truly astounding is the next step that Ngannou will take. After being released from his contract with the Ultimate Fighting Championship, he secured a lucrative deal with the Professional Fighters League, which guaranteed him financial independence and acknowledged his value. As a result of his subsequent boxing bout against Tyson Fury, in which he was a significant underdog, he unsuccessfully attempted to win the title and ultimately lost by decision. This outcome not only succeeded in defying expectations, but it also solidified Ngannou's position as a legendary figure in the world of combat sports. Despite the odds, Francis Ngannou was able to make a huge impression outside of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. In addition, what can we learn from his narrative about the significance of fighter autonomy and the pursuit of equitable treatment in the realm of professional sports? 4. Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz, along with Chuck Liddell, became one of the first superstars to emerge from the Ultimate Fighting Championship during a time when the sport was still just beginning to establish its feet. Ortiz had already established himself as a pioneer in the sport of boxing by the time the year 2002 came to a close. He had successfully defended the light heavyweight belt 5 times. It is indisputable that he was a formidable opponent within the octagon, even though his intelligence was ridiculed. Ortiz compared himself to a lion, the king of the jungle, with the ability to deal with annoyances while remaining undisturbed at the top. This analogy served to demonstrate both his authority and the difficulties he encountered from rivals. This animosity reached new levels, culminating in a boxing bout between Ortiz and Dana White, the president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which was a move that had never been seen before in the history of the sport. The fact that White was certain that he would be able to triumph over Ortiz in the ring was the driving force behind all of the preparations that were made for an official fight. These preparations included a commission and a weigh-in, during which White placed 197 pounds on the scale. Ortiz, however, did not show up for the fight, which was a surprising turn of events that caused many people to be astonished. This further escalated their feud. After losing to Lyoto Machida at UFC 84, Ortiz gave a contentious press conference that led to his departure from the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Ortiz cited problems related to fighter treatment and pay as the reasons behind his departure. Ortiz made a statement indicating that he does not want to murder himself for a paycheck, which is a hint at a more widespread problem regarding fighter salaries and treatment inside the sport. In a dramatic statement that brought attention to the fragile connections that exist between certain sportsmen and the promotion, he accused the UFC of treating fighters as if they were slaves. Despite these difficulties, Ortiz and White were able to reconcile in the end, and Ortiz then re-signed with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The underlying animosity, on the other hand, never completely subsided, and White's admission that his favorite moment in the Ultimate Fighting Championship was Chuck Liddell's knockout of Ortiz highlights the complicated and frequently antagonistic connections that exist within the sport. When did Tito Ortiz's feud with Dana White reach the stage where he decided to organize a boxing bout between the two of them? What conclusions may be drawn from Ortiz's vocal criticism regarding the more general issues of fighter treatment and salary in the Ultimate Fighting Championship? As we come to the end of our video on the nuances of these athletes' encounters with Dana White and the Ultimate Fighting Championship, it is equally important to acknowledge the broader ramifications that their stories have. When it comes to a sport that requires everything from those who dare to enter the octagon, these are not merely stories of conflict and strife. Rather, they are reflections on the nature of power, the struggle for autonomy, and the never-ending search for equity. So, what are your thoughts about this video, guys? Let us know in the comments section below. See you in our next video.